We begin with breaking news from Gaza, where Israeli forces are carrying out a raid on Gaza's largest hospital, al-Shifa. The director of health says he's heard gunfire and the movement of Israeli tanks inside the complex. Earlier, a doctor told Al Jazeera an Israeli airstrike had hit the fourth floor of the main building. Well, days of airstrikes have crippled al-Shifa, which is situated in Gaza City in the north. More than 3,000 patients, medical staff and displaced Palestinians are sheltering in the complex. Dr. Ahmad Makalalati is inside al-Shifa hospital. He shared what he's been experiencing there overnight.
Really more and more tighter. It's really horrible here. It has been continuous bombing and firing since the last, let me say, 5 hours almost. The Israelis tanks are moving towards the Shifa hospital. I've seen 2 tanks getting in the gate, the main gate, the eastern gate of Shifa hospital, and they were inside the Shifa hospital. And we keep hearing the tanks moving within the area of the Shifa hospital. The bombing has been really, really aggressive over the last many hours, with continuous shooting, all over the place, all over the areas. You don't know from where exactly. Sometimes you hear it's from the east, the other time you hear it's from the south or from the west. So it's totally like surrounding the hospital and keeps firing continuously with all kinds of weapons, to the hospital. The Israelis have called the hospital administration around an hour ago, saying that they are getting in the hospital and they are about to get inside the buildings and to investigate and to try to check each building one by one and each room within the hospital. And they advise the people, they ask them not to look through the windows or the doors, and that everyone might be at risk if they try to do anything. So, and then they said nothing about the way of doing this. They said nothing about the mechanism of getting in. The weird thing that since they asked about this thing, nothing has happened, at least in our building, I can tell you. And then the bombing and the shooting, you can hear it in the ground. It didn't stop at all. Sometimes it's really, really very, very dense. So again, the hospital is full of patients.
Yeah.
We have around 700 patients. We have civilians within the hospital sheltering. There are families with kids, with ladies, and we have the medical staff. So imagine how scary is that to everyone here within the hospital.
Tareq Azzoum is live for us now in Khan Younis in the south of the Gaza Strip. Tareq, what's the very latest you're hearing about the Israeli raid on al-Shifa hospital?
Yes, the Israeli occupation forces had turned up to al-Shifa hospital and managed to get into the buildings of this medical complex after a series of rounds of fighting between them and the Palestinian fighters in the streets and the buildings of Gaza Strip. Now the Israeli special forces managed to right now to stand in front of the gate of al-Shifa hospital, and even they get into the main buildings searching for more military infrastructure, as they have claimed since the early beginning of this round of fighting. Now the maneuvering troops and the Israeli artillery tanks are stationed inside and even in the yards of the hospital, and they have also opened gunfires in the yards of the hospital, as the hospital is overwhelmed with patients, medical workers, and even the displaced people. There are more than around 30,000 Palestinians who are residing inside the hospital. Now the Israeli forces are really saying that they are carrying out a precise military operation inside the al-Shifa hospital based on accurate military intelligence information about the targets that they are wanting to eliminate. But meanwhile, according to the director of Gaza hospitals, no bullets had been shot against the Israeli troops from the al-Shifa hospital, which gave a clear sign that the al-Shifa hospital is clear and empty of militants, and the Israeli forces are now searching inside the buildings of hospitals, looking for further targets, as the hospital is overwhelmed with patients who are in deep need for humanitarian and even medical support in the current moment. So this attack on al-Shifa hospital is a clear violation, and according to the principles of international law, and also the different Palestinian factions have called the international community to send delegations in order to check the reality on the ground. And the Palestinian Ministry of Health inside the territory also said that the situation in the Shifa hospital is catastrophic, and they are appealing for the international community to stop what is happening on the ground, as the patients' life on site this medical complex are on the edge of collapse, as there is no any safe passage out to be delivered to the southern areas of the territory.
Tareq, Israel claims to be targeting Hamas, but there's never been any evidence provided of a Hamas presence at hospitals.
Yes, always Israel had used this pretext in order to attack different targets, as they had previously said since the early beginning of this fighting. They are talking about the destruction of residential neighborhoods, claiming that there are centers for operations or command rooms that operate for the Palestinian fighters. Meanwhile, they are now inside the Shifa hospital, and even throughout the previous rounds of fighting that erupted between them and even with the Palestinian fighters, they did not manage to prove any evidence that really can condemn the use of this medical complex for military purposes. And these allegations have been met by a wave of refusal and even a disapproval by the Palestinian factions and even the Palestinian Ministry of Health, which denied all of these accusations and recommended the international community to bear responsibility regarding what is happening right now on the ground in a Shifa hospital.
Tareq, thanks very much for that update. Well, for more on this now, let's speak to Sara Khairat, joining us live now from Ramallah. Sara, we understand that Israeli forces have released a statement.
They are. They've confirmed the current operation that's underway. They also said that it's only happening in a certain part of al-Shifa hospital. Of course, if you remember, we've covered this extensively, how that hospital is a huge one with multiple buildings. They're saying that they're only working on a precise area. They said this is all based on their own intelligence, and that action was not intended to harm patients, medical staff and citizens. They also confirmed that some of their medical teams, they said, are Arabic speakers that have specific training to prepare, they said, for this complex and sensitive environment. Well, of course, what we've been hearing from the head of the hospital paints a very different picture. We also, of course, heard from the Palestinian Authority health minister, who has said that they're requesting international protection for all of those that are in the hospital seeking treatment. That includes doctors, health workers, and of course civilians and displaced people, because we know there's around 7,000 of them that took refuge after the Israeli military itself had warned people in the north to move to the south. So many of those are taking refuge there. They also called for the protection of all of those people in that hospital under international law, and that they had already reached the Red Cross. But according to the Health Ministry for the Palestinian Authority, they said that the Red Cross couldn't really do much given the circumstances. And of course, we've also heard from Hamas as well, condemning this and saying that the US is also complicit in this and in any deaths that are carried out against those civilians that are holed up now in that hospital, because it said that the US gave the green light to that. This is an extraordinary development that we're seeing folding out in front of us. Never really seen anything like this. And of course, Al Jazeera is speaking to the head of that hospital, confirming that there is nothing that is harboring Hamas, that there is no command center as per Israeli forces. The reason, the green card, they said, that allowed them to go in, according to the Israeli forces, forces is that there is a command center, effectively what they've called as the Hamas Pentagon. Now, the forces also did add, the Israeli forces, the military spokesman, Daniel Hagari, said that they are also there to look for those hostages. So perhaps based on their intelligence, they believe that those that are being held captive may be held there. Of course, more than 240 people are still held in Gaza right now.
Sara Khairat, thank you in Ramallah for us there.